Hello and welcome to the NailBitingBuildUp with Danny Trento. I'm your host, Danny Trento. Today Danny Trento is joined by Will Dodds and Henry Spinks. Today we'll be discussing our possible Chelsea lineups.
Well, Danny, I know you're a bit of a criticiser of Jose Mourinho.
Certainly am.
And they have a huge squad, an array of talent, but getting into that 11 players who can produce the best results for Chelsea has been an issue so far. So we're going to go through the panel and we're going to name our Chelsea team. Starting with Henry.
I'd like to see, obviously, Cech in goal, Ivanovic right back, John Terry, Gary Cahill, and probably at the moment I'd see Aspilicueta left back. I'd like to see him carry on. Started well there, played well with both, and I think Ashley Cole is probably lacking. I think he's losing it for me. I really don't like seeing him there. Defensive midfielders, I'd have two like he normally has. I'd have definitely played John over Mikel, and the other one's up contention. I'd probably even say Lampard because he scores goals from there, but Ramirez just because of his engine, because he can run all day. Also, I'd like to see Hazard, Oscar, and maybe Mata back in, but I don't see Schürrle as in contention yet. I really think he's a good impact player. He's not quite there for me, and I like Nieto up front.
Okay, I completely disagree with you. Firstly, you basically just named the same side that recently just lost 1-0 to Basel, barring the inclusion of Hazard, who started on the bench in that game. We didn't have a shot on goal throughout the whole game, on target. We didn't have a shot on target all game. We only had 2 shots in total, 48% possession against Basel. I think when you play Aspilicueta at left back, you lack an overlapping run of the left winger, particularly when Hazard likes to come in field. You lack a natural left-footed crosser who can swing the ball in, especially if you have a right-footed left winger. You have no one who can go to the byline effectively. I also think that Ivanovic tucks in too much as a right back. Plays too central, gives too much space to the winger in the wide areas. So I think he almost has a natural instinct to come and play very centrally as a centre back, born and bred. So I would play Aspilicueta at right back if you're going to play him. I'd only play one defensive midfielder. I only think we need one defensive midfielder. We have such an array of attacking talent. I think Arsenal, for instance, play better when they only play one defensive midfielder. So I play one defensive midfielder, and I look to play Oscar deeper, so we have a bit more quality in the ball in the deeper areas, so you can feed the likes of Mata, Willian, Hazard, and possibly Schürrle as a false nine, if not.
So Danny, what's your team then? Go through your team.
Team left back Ashley Cole, centre backs John Terry and David Luiz. David Luiz I think is a very aggressive defender. He can be frustrating, but let's not forget he's the captain of Brazil in the absence of Thiago Silva. He's a very, very talented, very astute defender, so I would definitely play him.
You're all about his mistake against Cardiff.
I do, but people emphasise these mistakes, and they fail to mention the fact that we have a better defensive record when David Luiz is playing. Also, David Luiz is, I think, the king of our high line. I think Chelsea needs to start playing a pressing game. We need to revolutionise our football for the future, and David Luiz, in playing a high line, is the best defender in the world.
High line with John Terry?
A high line with John Terry.
One of the slowest centre-backs in English game at the moment.
For the fact that you'd have a mobile defensive midfielder in there as well, and also David Luiz is a very, very mobile centre-back.
So you would say you would play Mikel as a 3, so you'd play like 3 centre-backs?
Effectively, that's how a defensive midfielder works. It comes in, they sweep the ball off, and they move the ball out.
Yeah.
Playing between centre-backs, the centre-backs spread wide, and it allows the full-backs to push higher up the pitch.
I think we've seen how you can play a high line at Barcelona, despite the fact that you don't have a lot of pace, with Carlos Puyol, who's obviously effective there, and he's not the fastest defender in the world. I think John Terry...
Danny Alves behind him.
But you have...
Danny Alves
at Chelsea, you have Cesar Aspilicueta in Barney's mind, I think, playing right back, and he can cover that. And I think John Terry, maybe not fast on the feet, but he's fast in the mind, and he will be someone who can definitely cover that ground. So
yeah, I like the aggression of David Luiz. I like what he brings. He steps out and he cuts the ball off. In the high line, I think that's perfect. It allows us to press very hard up the pitch. I think that's what we need to start doing. Especially when we struggled to score as many goals. We scored 147 goals in one competition last season. I'd like to see more of that. Then right back, as I said, Aspilicueta. Central midfield, I have Michael Essien. Ashley Cole left back. Michael Essien was playing central midfield in between centre backs. I think he's more mobile than John Obi Mikel. I think he's a better footballer than John Obi Mikel. So I think that would be a better option, in my opinion. Then I'd play Oscar as the more deeper of the two attacking midfielders, picking the ball up, sort of in the jabby role, so he can dictate a game. I think he's very effective when he's playing deep. And then I play Juan Mata alongside Oscar, a slightly more advanced role. And then obviously in the wide areas I'd have Eden Hazard on the left and Willian on the right, and up front I'd like to try Andre Schürrle as a false nine. I know we tried it against Manchester United, and it didn't seem to be particularly effective. But let's not forget he had no service throughout the whole game, and Chelsea were very defensive in that game anyway. So I'd like to see that maybe against a lower side, to see what Andre Schürrle is like up front. He's done it for Bayer Leverkusen, been very effective. He scored 15 league goals last season for Bayer Leverkusen. So I think that could be a potential outlet for Chelsea. If not, and also as he's a natural left winger, it would allow Hazard to come in the middle and get involved in the play, and almost Hazard plays the false nine. And if not, yeah, he has done that for Belgium. And if not, then if it's not successful, then I think Torres or Eze. That's fun.
Do you not think you'd lose the ability of the goal scoring threat of Oscar if you play that Javi role? Javi wasn't renowned for scoring goals.
Oscar is undoubtedly a good piece. Obviously, he's our second highest goal scorer of the season. But Juan Mata hasn't had a look in the season. Last season, Juan Mata was our second highest goal scorer and scored more goals than Oscar. So I think by dropping Oscar deeper, you allow another goal scoring midfielder to come in and play in that more advanced role.
Do you think Jose's seen something in training he doesn't like in Mata? Apparently it's the laziness, apparently it's the attitude. He hasn't brought about the same attitude everyone else has in the squad.
No, I think that's definitely a point that is worth remembering. And for that reason, you really need to get into Juan Mata. You really need to motivate him to do that. I think he's definitely capable of doing that. I'd like to think that he's capable of working hard with the team as well. And so I would have personal confidence that he can do that. If not, then Ramirez is a great engine, and perhaps in the bigger games, Ramirez might be a more effective advanced midfielder for the fact that he's offers so much pace in the counter attack. But I'd like to think Juan Mata can put in shift defensively.
Okay, so I'll move on to my team now. I'll start with Petr Cech in goal, with a back four of Branislav Ivanovic, David Luiz, John Terry and Ashley Cole. In midfield, I'd go with John-Henry Mikel and Oscar playing in the deeper role, with Juan Mata as number 10. At wide, I would have Eden Hazard and Andre Schürrle, and up front I'd have Fernando Torres. The reasoning behind this is I think when I saw Chelsea had their best game so far this season, this was with Schürrle and Hazard wide with Torres up front. Schürrle gave Chelsea some actual natural width, which I think is a strong point because they have Cole and Azpilicueta who naturally like to bomb on. And with these, with Cole and Schürrle and Hazard and Azpilicueta, this can actually basically create a double up on the fullback. So I think this would be very effective for Chelsea. And with Mata arriving late, with Torres in the middle, and Oscar, who's naturally going to get forward, playing in that deeper role, I think that would be very effective with that.
You avoiding the West Ham game. I thought that was a pretty good performance from the Chelsea team. It started 3-0 against West Ham, goals from midfield. Do you think that was
same side again that lost to Basel in my opinion, and also the same side that Azpilicueta at left back. That was the same side that struggled to penetrate West Brom at home. So West Ham have been very poor form recently, and I think we played well against West Ham, but it wasn't. I don't think it was imperious Chelsea. I think we can do better.
I think Oscar scored a reasonably nice individual goal, a penalty which was frankly appalling defending, sort of keep him out. So I think the Manchester City game was Chelsea scoring one of their best goals they've scored when Fernando Torres picked up the ball and ran at Clichy and then put the ball in, and you have Schürrle arriving late like a good winger will to tap it in the back post. So I think with Schürrle and Hazard you get two players who can beat a man and also deliver quality goals as well. Yeah. So that's my team.
I think our best performance this season is probably either you have to say Bayern Munich in the Super Cup was or even though the side they're playing wasn't great. I think we played really well against Bucharest away in the Champions League when we won 4-0.
Yeah.
I think that was actually a really good performance, particularly by Andre Schürrle. So that's what's sort of impressed me from him. So
I'd just like to pick up one thing. Willian was named in your starting 11. What do you see in Willian, and what can he bring to Chelsea?
Well, I think he's recently starting to break through into the Brazilian squad. I think he's a very talented player, and I think possibly even an underrated player. And he only scored one goal in 16 appearances. That said, he had a phenomenal return at Shakhtar in terms of goals and assists combined. and I really think that he looked really bright up when I've seen him play. I think naturally he's better. Schürrle is a natural left winger. I think he's naturally better suited to play on the right than Schürrle or even Hazard. So that's what I see in him. I also think he's a tidy footballer. He can come in the middle. He can be creative in the middle of the pitch as well. So it allows that sort of free roaming role as well as the sort of strict wide player. So I think he's an intelligent player. He's got pace. He can score goals. I definitely see a future for him on the right wing.
Back up there, when William was at Shakhtar, he was the main man for them, and I think that's where he's the best position. He gets the ball. He's pretty much a playmaker. He's like the quarterback in American football. That's what he did for Shakhtar, and that's how he was so successful there.
Henry, I'd like to pick on one thing. Me and Barney obviously both went for David Louise.
Yeah.
And she went for Gary Cahill. What do you think behind that?
I think Cahill and Terry form a English bond, which I think is unbreakable personally. I think together they form a communication that's a little bit better, and they're a typical centre back. David Luiz is a bit too fancy for me. I think his best position was under Benitez, where he played defensive field. He could spray the ball, and he wasn't the last line of defence. I think David Luiz has a liability at centre back because the Cardiff mistake, there's numerous mistakes where he's the last line of defence, and if that's the last line to pen a check, I don't think he's capable. Not at the moment. He's still quite young. Like you say, he's captain of Brazil. That experience will help him develop as a centre back. But at the moment, I don't think he's quite up to the job for the English game to stand at centre back and be formidable like John Terry and Gary Cahill will be together.
In fairness, I don't think there's. I think it was a tough one for me choosing Cahill or Luiz to partner John Terry. I do think that Cahill. I personally think that Cahill is actually quite good on the ball. I think he's got
a lot better compared to Simon Bolton.
Yeah. People overlook that in my opinion. But I still think Luiz definitely in the long term has more to offer.
No, yeah, good.
And I would start to look in betting it now. I mean, it's still a transitional period for Chelsea in my opinion. I don't think we're going to be looking at being the best side in Europe this season. I think you've got to look to develop players like David Luiz now rather than when they're 30 years old. Because he's 26 now, so.
One thing I think is January is crucial for Chelsea. Getting the right players in. Do they want to get another striker? I've heard Jackson Martinez being touted, but then also I think a more pertinent issue is maybe in the central defensive midfield position. Doesn't look like he really fancies John Obi Mikel. Lampard's 35. He's not going to get any younger. Ramirez, I think he gets too far ahead of the ball when he's playing in that position.
Yeah.
So I think a genuine central defensive midfielder, an SCN in his pomp, is what Chelsea needs, because when they were at their best, that was who they had.
Defensive midfielder, SCN was more advanced.
Yeah. Well, Makelele as well, when they went into 2004-05, Makelele was imperious. So I think January is an important player. So I'm going to pose a question to each of you. Okay, Chelsea, one player in January transfer window. I'm going to come to you first, Denny.
I would personally prioritise defensive midfield. We've been looking at Nemanja Matic. I think he's a good player. So I'd perhaps look at someone like him.
Okay.
I think Javi Martinez from Bayern Munich, he'd be a perfect suit for Chelsea midfield.
Would be perfect if we could get Javi Martinez.
It would be perfect.
That would be brilliant.
But I don't think he'd want to come obviously from Bayern, doing so well. But also I think Chelsea, with like you said about Samuel Eto'o, I can see his movement is improving every game, every step he's taking to transition into the English game. So I think they've got two world-class strikers there. I think Fernando Torres is becoming a world-class striker again, because he hasn't lost it, he's never lost it.
Yeah.
He just hasn't got the confidence within him. But I think he's getting it back. Him and Samuel Eto'o, Demba Ba as a substitute or as a squad player, that's a great three up front. So I don't think they're lacking anything there. Like I said, the defensive midfielder to go alongside maybe like a Lampard or a Ramirez, a mixture of those two would be perfect, but it's hard to find. And maybe Martinez is probably the perfect fit, but I don't think he's available.
Yeah. I think that's about it. It's been Danny Trento.
I've been Will Dodds, and please like and subscribe.